Good morning, everybody. Welcome to those who are participating in this service here in the building and those who are watching online. We're glad to have you all. Our praise and worship songs this morning are There's Room for All, number 76, and Perpetual Praise, number 1, both from your sing book, which you can find under your seats. Get your rhythm instruments if you want, or your finger labyrinths, and let us make a joyful noise together.
There's room for all in the shadow of God's wing. There is room for all sheltered in God's love. And I rejoice and sing, my refuge and my rock in whom I trust. There is room for all. There is room for all. There is room for all in the shadow of God's wing. There's room for all sheltered in God's love. And I rejoice and sing, my refuge and my rock in whom I trust. There is room for all. There is room for all. There is room for all in the shadow of God's wing. There's room for all sheltered in God's love. And I rejoice and sing, my refuge and my rock in whom I trust. There is room for all. There is room for all. Your many blessings are new each morning, and with each dawning we sing your praise. From early morning to restful evening, our grateful hearts sing praises. Your love and mercy shining bright, bring hope and joy as we follow in your light. You breathe within us, you sing within us, you move our hearts to perpetual praise through all of our days. Perpetual praise.
I know that last song is not as familiar, but the good news is that we get to sing it all month long. So every week you're going to get to know it better and better and better until you say to yourself, when's the next time we get to sing that peppy, wonderful song again? And it'll be in about 3 months from now, probably. So hopefully it'll become ingrained in your knower, and you'll enjoy it. So good morning once again. Our theme this month of July is progressive theology. We're also having communion, so please make sure here in the building, if you want to have the little communion cups and stuff, that you get one. And they are what? They're over there on the back on the table near the fake plant. So was that too honest? Near the pretty green plantish thing. Anyway, you can find today's bulletin for the service either on our app or on our website, PlymouthUnited.org. I also wanted to let you know that we're going to have new member classes. They're going to be August 7th and August 14th. They're going to be different from each other, but if you can only make one, don't despair. I'll catch you up. I'm happy to have coffee with you. As many people know, I like to be fully caffeinated as often as possible, so we can have coffee together and I can go over with you what we did. And we're going to be receiving new members in September. And I want to make it clear that that includes people who have been coming in the building and people who are online. Hey, all you YouTubers. Are you interested in becoming a member? Because we're going to have a hybrid on the 7th and the 14th, and we want to Zoom you in if you want to become a member of Plymouth United Church. We would love to have you. Online participation and on-site participation both qualify. So hopefully we'll have lots of participation in that. Another just reminder that a week ago, Friday was Melanie's last day as our office manager, and we'd hoped to celebrate with her here before she left, but things progressed really quickly for her. So we want to send her a gift basket of appreciation for her 13 years of service. If you want to give some special gift money for that, PushPay, we have a gift option, or you can write it in the memo in your check, put a Post-it on some cash and throw it in the glass church, whatever. So just to let you know that we're going to be sending her a gift. And now, let us bring ourselves fully to this time and to this place. Whether you've come here on Sunday morning in the building, whether you turned on your computer and joined us on Sunday morning while we were live, whether you tune in sometime during the week or you're binge watching over the course of the month, you've come to this space intentionally. And so intentionally, we are going to find ourselves. We're going to experience our bodies in this span of time. We're going to experience our mind, our thinking, as we gather together. We're going to engage emotionally with how we feel, and our spirits will be awakened and quickened. And all of these aspects of our being, as they come alive in this time that we're gathering together, may go through a variety of experiences. And whether you are reaching up high or digging down low or reaching out side to side, you can find yourself in the center of your being. Because all of that motion and all of the stillness counts as centering. Setting ourselves in this space to be together and to be with God is what counts. So I want you to feel in your body where you're tense. I want you to feel in your mind where you're tense, in your emotions, in your spirits. And do those places connect in your tension, or are they very different? Where do you feel free? Where do you feel absolutely excited? What place in your body is dancing or feeling light and airy? What place in your thinking is just going to such a degree that it's new exciting thoughts or the same comforting thoughts that you're like, oh, I'm so grateful for that? How about in your emotions? Where emotionally are you experiencing something wonderful? Where in the spirit are you feeling release and connection? Where in the spirit are you feeling holy love? Whether it's creator holy love or creation to creation holy love, because we share that energetic connection with each other. Take in a deep breath. Know that who you are is good. Know that where you are even in the midst of the struggle, is good. Let us be good in this space, in this time, as we intentionally co-create an atmosphere of love and grace and mercy, of hope and of connection.
Please join me in our responsive call to worship. With our eyes and our spirits, we seek you, O God. With our hearts, we reach out. In joy or sorrow. With faith, we offer our praise.
Let's sing together Be Now My Vision, verses 1 through 3. It's number 451 from the New Century Hymnal, which you can find under your seats. Please join your hearts in prayer with mine. Holy love, we count on your vision. We count on our being able to receive that vision. There's a lot to see right now and a lot to be considering. And we ask your guidance in it all. Guidance to see the truth within whatever is being presented. The guidance to be understanding and wise in the middle of conversations. Help us to have your vision for the future of this place that we live in the world, and also that we live in our communities. We're grateful that we can count on you and that we can count on each other during these uncertain times. And that we ask that you would weave a stronger fabric than you've ever woven before in this family of faith and families like ours, so that we can do your work, know your will, and do it as one. And because we do this work together as a community, let us sing this prayer.
Daily
Each week, we collect 2 offerings. One is for the church, which goes into our general fund for the running of the church and our ministries. The second is the loose offering, which is sent to a designated charity, which changes each week. If you brought your offering in person today, you're welcome to drop it in the offering box in the back. It's the glass church near the doors to the narthex. Today's loose offering goes to the Texas Freedom Network, which supports research and civic education efforts that promote religious freedom, individual liberties, and public education. The TFN Education Fund is widely recognized as an influential think tank in Texas. Their growing library of original research has become invaluable to policymakers on a wide range of church, state, and education issues. They engage in projects that help mainstream clergy and other Texans formulate and advocate a faith-based response to the religious rights policy agenda. If you'd like to give to our general fund, to the loose offering, or to both, you can use bill pay from your bank, send us a check, use the Plymouth app, or use push pay according to the directions on your screen. And as always, thank you for supporting Plymouth and the ministries of the loose offering. Please join me in our offertory prayer. Every generous act of giving comes from love. We are doers of faith and not merely hearers. There is a religion that is pure and undefiled before God. It is to care for orphans and widows in their distress. Jesus taught, healed, and fed the crowds. He blessed their bodies and their spirits. Together, we seek to do the same. Oh God, bless these gifts to make a difference to people in need.
Amen. You may be seated. Our first biblical witness today is from 1 Samuel chapter 8, 10 through 22. Samuel reported all the words of the Lord to the people who were asking him for a king. God said, "These will be the ways of the king who will reign over you. The king will take your sons and appoint them to his chariots and to be his horsemen and to run before his chariots. And the king will appoint for himself commanders of thousands and commanders of 50s, and some to plow his ground and to reap his harvest and to make his implements of war and the equipment of his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers and cooks and bakers. He will take the best of your fields and vineyards and olive orchards and give them to his courtiers. He will take 1/10 of your grain and of your vineyards and give it to his officers and his courtiers. The king will take your male and female slaves and the best of your cattle and donkeys and put them to his work. He will take 1/10 of your flock, and you shall be his slaves. And in that day you will cry out because of your king, whom you have chosen for yourselves, but the Lord will not answer you in that day. But the people refused to listen to the voice of Samuel. They said, "No, but we are determined to have a king over us, so that we may also be like the other nations, and that our king may govern us and go out before us and fight our battles." When Samuel had heard all the words of the people, he repeated them into the ears of the word of the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, "Listen to their voice. Set a king over them." Samuel then said to the people of Israel, "Each of you return home."
Our second biblical witness is from the Gospel of Mark 12, verses 13 through 17. The chief priests, the scribes, and the elders sent to Jesus some Pharisees and some Herodians to trap him in what he said. And they came and said to him, "Teacher, we know that you are sincere and show deference to no one, for you do not regard people with partiality, but teach the way of God in accordance with truth. Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not? Should we pay them or should we not?" But knowing their hypocrisy, he said to them, "Why are you putting me to the test? Bring me a denarius and let them see it." And they brought one. Then he said to them, "Whose head is this, and whose title?" They answered, "The emperor's." Jesus said to them, "Give to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's." And they were utterly amazed at him.
Jesus, the brightest of
So the topic this morning is for freedom's sake, because we are here in this 4th of July weekend. And as I reflected on the readings that I chose, I thought I need to say something again that I'm bound to say over and over. I know I've said it before. The writings of the Bible share with us a journey of a people of faith. The journey of many peoples at various times, following their faith and their God as best as they knew how. They were trying to understand their lives and the events of their lives through the lens of how they understood God and their God's interaction with them. That is how I approach all the readings in our sacred text. Now, in the readings that we've heard this morning, I think we can see that humankind has been and continues to search for freedom in various ways, with various priorities. The goal is this seeking for freedom. This is something that here in the United States, we say that we value very highly: liberty and justice for all. But we all have different definitions of what freedom means, which makes us at odds with each other, sometimes even at war, formally and informally. Before going too deep into that, let's look at these readings. In 1 Samuel, the people greatly desired to be like other nations. They envied the structure of their neighbors. God wants to convince them that they don't need to be like everybody else. But they disagree. At this point in their history, their leadership consisted of what we call judges, or what they called judges. These judges would help them decide matters, give them instructions, and they were counted on to be there for moral and civic reference points. They also had prophets, like Samuel. These prophets were supposed to help the people be guided by divine inspiration. And not that the judges weren't said to have a relationship with God, but the prophets were specifically sought after for this divine leading. But the people wanted more than that. They wanted a king who would make decisions, who would organize them and do things for them. They wanted this king to tell them what to do. As we all know, there's some drawbacks to this system. But they didn't care. They felt like they were out of step with the rest of the world, and that they were tired of being different. So that was the 1 Samuel experience. Let's move to our story in the Gospel of Mark. It tells us a little bit about Jesus and how he felt about his political system that he was living in. He seems a bit detached from it to me. He didn't conflate the two systems of power that he lived in, politics and religion. He saw them as separate, and he pushed against them equally. As we learned from his teachings, it wasn't religion or government that he valued. His emphasis was on creating a community of mutual support. And loving God with all the essence of their being. This went beyond codified structures of religion or politics. Creation itself, he attributed to God's domain. The systems that mortals created, he attributed to mortals. However, that human system was functioning, or was being designed at the moment, whether political or religious, wasn't of much concern to him, unless it violated the loving and grace-filled system of God's creation, which sadly it usually did and usually does. By design, for Jesus, it was God's creation and God's system that had priority over the human systems. There were times that he was opposed by leaders and followers alike for the way he and his disciples behaved based on the laws of his religion. How come you and your people don't wash your hands before you eat? How come they're plucking heads of grain on the Sabbath? How come you're healing somebody on the Sabbath? Wrong, 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 Jesus. You're wrong, 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 wrong. However, this way of looking at the rules for Jesus was different. He was looking at the spirit of the law, not the letter of the law. He cared about what the point was and how it applied to the context. The political and religious climate that we're living in today has become increasingly polarized. Year after year, we continue to be concerned about the state of our country and the direction it's going. And this is true for conservatives, and it's true for liberals. Everybody on every side of the agenda is like, I am concerned about the direction that we're going, and I need to be involved to change it. We're not doing a very good job of listening to each other, or even trying to have a conversation. There have been periods in history where different and opposing political and religious structures have listened to each other better and tried to find some kind of middle ground. But make no mistake, even with those periods of history, this kind of polarization isn't new that we're experiencing now. It's long rooted here in the States and throughout the long arc of history. If it wasn't, we wouldn't have had a civil war. So first, I want to acknowledge that this land that we live on was the home of many peoples before my and many of your ancestors arrived. What was done to the First Nations people was beyond wrong. Now, within that truth, some of the people who came here were out for power and domination. They used the idea of freedom as a leverage to justify their ideologies and their actions. Now, on the other hand, a lot of people came here because they were oppressed. Freedom was the dream. They had the merest glimpse that it might be possible for them. Many people today come here for the same dream. They have that same bare glimpse of a better future, and it's worth it to go after it. Some are seeking asylum for various reasons. Some are looking for education, jobs, a home. Humanity is always on a quest for freedom, for liberty, for autonomy, for community. As we continue to fight for our various ideologies of freedom, why do we continue to hurt each other? How does taking freedoms from one group allow greater freedoms for another? How does opening liberty up for one group take liberty away from anybody else? We're in a moral battleground. The questions are emotionally charged, and logic and reason seem to be the enemy rather than offering answers. Our morality is being held hostage by religion and politics. If we don't espouse to a certain political or religious position, then we're traitors and our morality is suspect. Freedom itself has been taken captive by the power dynamics and ruthless tactics of many of our leaders. And then I think about Jesus and that moment that he was accosted by a few Pharisees and a few Herodians. The story tells us they wanted to trap him. Now, Jesus was much more on his game than I think I'll ever be. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where there are a few people that come up to you and they're like, I think I've got you where I want you. I'm going to say this, and it's going to make you squirm, and you're not going to know what to do. And oftentimes when it comes to me, sometimes that is exactly what happens. I get all nervous. I know their motivation, but I don't want to say the wrong thing and give them any more fuel for the fire. Sometimes maybe I'm on my game, but Jesus, at least as he's being written about, he was always on his game. He never got stumped. He maintained his detached demeanor when they asked him about the morality and righteousness of paying taxes to the government. First, he laid bare their motivation by asking, why are you putting me to the test? And then by doing that, he lets them know he knows what they're up to. Then he says, bring me a coin. It's as if he's saying, let me see what you're talking about. Then he begins to answer their question with one of his own, which is absolutely in keeping with the style of Jesus. He looks at the coin. Whose head And whose title is on this thing? Now, that's a rhetorical question, if there ever was one. He knew, but he wanted them to say it. And they answered, the emperor's. Well, if it belongs to the emperor, give it back to the emperor. But the things that belong to God, give those back to God. It's this kind of separation and detachment that we're lacking in our conversations, our arguments, our battles. Some want to insist that what they are fighting for is God's morality and God's law, that there's only one kind of righteousness, and they know what it is. Everyone needs to listen to them and submit to their authority and superiority. Jesus teaches that God's morality and righteousness are not a part of every single decision that we make. Some things are distinctly human. We seek freedom to be in relationship with God the way we want to, without having to name God a certain way, to have rituals a certain way, to call ourselves by any specific religion or by any religion at all. And we also seek freedom within and sometimes away from our human institutions. Of course, we make decisions about our human institution through the lens of our morality and our ethics. But they should never be made on behalf of our religion. As we continue to seek freedom, may we have the wisdom to distinguish between what is a human system, a political and religious system, and what is divine. When we initiate a conversation or we are responders, may we have the clarity of Jesus to know the motivation behind what's going on and to name it, and to look beyond it to the essence of truth that is at its core. And may we learn to find peaceful solutions to our disagreements so that we truly may be seeking freedom and liberty for all. And this, my friends, brings us to the communion table. I want you to imagine your idealized meal gathering with some of the people that you feel the most connected to. I want you to imagine the shape of the table, the kind of chairs people are sitting in, the lighting that's in the room. I want you to imagine the food that's on the table, the cups that people are drinking from. And I want you to imagine the look on people's faces. Hopefully they're smiling. Hopefully their eyes are shining. How big is that group of people? Who have you gathered in that space? Now that you have that picture in mind, I want you to feel what your motivation is for having those people there. I've been at gatherings where I wasn't the host. I was one sitting around the table. And the vibe of that gathering was full of generosity, of great desire that everybody have as wonderful of a time as possible. I've been at receptions after funerals or celebrations of life, where the food and the drink are flowing and people in the midst of a great sadness are still laughing and smiling. The motivation is the gathering itself. I've been at these gatherings where I'm the host. And in the back of my mind, all I really care about is, do people feel cared for and loved? Is this gift that I'm giving them something that's going to nourish them beyond their bodies? will it nourish their hearts? I would say that in all these ways, this is at least one example of a desire to offer the gift of freedom to people. Freedom to eat as much as they need, freedom to gather in a close way, freedom to see each other with new eyes or with comfortable old eyes of knowing experiences. The freedom to create that space to be more than that space is meant to be on the surface. We come to that table with Jesus today, where he was sitting around with the people that he was closest to, and he was coming to a point in his life when he knew things were coming to a head. And he wanted to give them more than was on the table. He didn't want them to just mindlessly eat and mindlessly drink. He didn't want them to take for granted this moment that was a gift. And so he picked up the bread and he gave thanks for it and he blessed it. And as he tore it apart, he said, "This is my body. I want you to see me in this food that I'm giving you. I want you to see my gift to you of this moment being something more than you see on the surface." So everybody, I want you, when you eat this, to remember me. And so today, we take our communion. We remember that moment of Christ giving of himself as a gift, something bigger than the moment itself, as we take and eat in remembrance of Christ. He also picked up the cup and he blessed it. And he gave thanks for it and he said, "This is the essence of my life." He called it his blood. The blood is the part of you that runs through your veins, that quickens you and makes you alive. It moves within this body so that you can live and live that life abundantly. And he said, "This is my life. This is my life force. I want you to have it." And one thing about being around a table that's filled with generosity and grace is that you want everybody to have enough, according to the proportions of the needs of their body. And so he passed it around and he said, "Every time you drink this, every time you do this, I want you to remember me." And so today, as we take this cup, we drink it in remembrance of that moment that he offered it to his friends. My friends, will you join your hearts with mine? Holy love, we thank you for your generosity, for revealing that oftentimes the moments that we're in the middle of are not simply the moments that we see, but they're deeper, more connected, and more meaningful than we can grasp with these five senses. help us to take this moment and this experience and remember that we have a touch point in our lives of greater meaning. And it is a way that we can experience it in our bodies through tasting, through feeling the food and the drink, and through sharing it one with another. Help us to live that life as abundantly as you lived it, and to share it in such a way that it is with wild abandon, so that folks who receive it wonder what in the world wonderful thing they're feeling. And they learn and they grow and they pass it on too. Thank you, Holy Love, for this meal and for the memory. And now, my friends, I invite you to sing with us. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary. If you have rhythm instruments, play them, and let us sing joyfully.
Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. To be a witness for you, acting boldly in your name, seeking justice where there is hurting, offering hope where there is pain. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. Seek with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary to you.
Amen. Go forth in peace and as peacemakers.